Hi, I'm Reverend Paula Skiles with Unity Church of San Marcos. Thank you for being here at this service. We began this message with a meditation time with India Taylor serving us a time of meditative music. I hope that you take the moment now to just become still. Close your eyes if it feels comfortable as we allow this time of meditation to help us to become centered. Thank you.
I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free.
You're free to sing with her.
Right now, right now. I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. I am free. I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free. I am unlimited. Right now, right now. I am free. I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free. I am unlimited. Right now, right now.
Thank you, India. We appreciate you coming in, being a part of this meditative time. If it feels comfortable, close your eyes as we breathe. We breathe, and the very name of God comes through our lips, through our breath. Yahweh. Yahweh. Holds us, breathes us, and moves through us in this day. And I invite you to let your speech speak to the I am in this moment. As you hold this thought, I am one with the infinite flame of Spirit. The flame of Holy Spirit moves through my being, consuming on all levels, conscious, unconscious, and any other thing that's in between. Those things which do not support the greatest good of my being and those of others. Precious Spirit, I move into that breath of release. And I exhale, letting go of that which holds me bound. It keeps me from having the fullness of faith and living it fully. Grateful in this moment that my very being, every thought, every aspect of my being is energized and brought into the awareness and the full light from that flame of your Spirit, surrounded, enfolded. And we challenge ourselves in this second. We challenge ourselves to wrestle with that which needs to be dealt with. The difficult things. The darkness, the shadowy things. All of that part of our being that holds us in limitation, fear, and the bondage of self. And we thank you, Spirit, that we, in this day, with each breath, open to more of that light of truth. As we bring forth our wholeness, and it crosses across our being on all levels. And so it is. We allow ourselves to become aware of that which is around us and opening our eyes. Thank you for being with us in this time of meditation. As we now move into allowing India Taylor to share with her music, she has something special for us today. What is it you're going to sing?
Well, I'm going to be singing a special version of Jacob's Ladder. And so this is Jacob's Ladder based on, the traditional Jacob's Ladder hymn. But this is extra special because it contains words that were added by Pete Seeger and Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, cool. Wow.
We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. Brothers, sisters, all. Every rung goes higher and higher. Every rung goes higher and higher. Every rung goes higher and higher. Brothers, sisters, all. Every rung just makes us stronger. Every rung just makes us stronger. Every rung just makes us stronger. Brothers, sisters, all. And we are climbing higher and higher. We are climbing higher and higher. We are climbing higher and higher. Brothers, sisters, all.
Hey! Good. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, India. What a wonderful experience. We appreciate you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, so this morning, our message is titled Coetaneous Combustion. Yes, okay, so we'll get to that.
Wow.
We'll get to it. We're going to let you think of it a bit this morning.
Yeah.
So there's an old story about a tightrope walker who did incredible stunts. And all over Paris, he would do these tightrope acts where he would go across the tightrope as a normal. Then he would do it blindfolded. And then he would do it blindfolded pushing a wheelbarrow.
Oh.
Okay?
Wow.
All right. As the story goes, there was this American promoter who read about this in the newspaper and sent the tightrope walker a letter inviting him, and what it essentially said, "Tightrope, I don't believe you can do it, but I'm willing to make you an offer. For a very substantial sum of money, besides all your transportation fees, I would like to challenge you to do your act over Niagara Falls." Okay, so tightrope wrote back and said, "Sir, I'd love to come." Well, after a lot of promotion and setting the whole thing up, the crowd was all ready. And it was going to come from the Canadian side over to the American side. And after a suspenseful drum roll, right? Okay, so it's not really a drum, but anyway. Tightrope was ready to go. And he came across blindfolded, right? And he had done this with the wheelbarrow, right? Okay. He gets over there and the crowds are going wild and the promoter's like, yeah, there you go. Okay, well, I didn't believe it, but yeah, I just saw it. And so Mr. Tightrope says, do you believe that I can do it? And the promoter's like, well, yeah, I just saw you do it. I guess so. No, says Tightrope. Do you believe I can do it? And the promoter says, well, yeah, I just saw you. Yeah, I believe you can do it. Mr. Tightrope says, well, get in the barrel. Get in the wheelbarrow. Okay, so faith is not something simply to be talked about. It's something to be lived. And Paul Harvey once said, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. Okay? So a living faith normally requires coetaneous combustion. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, coetaneous combustion is the title to this message. And it's about developing a living faith. So the coetaneous part comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson in his Self-Reliance and Other Essays. And he says this, bear with these distractions, with this coetaneous growth of the parts. They will one day be members and obey one's will. Coetaneous is an adjective which means of the same age or duration. And Emerson also continues with this thought. He said, underneath the inharmonious and trivial particulars is a musical perfection. The ideal journeying always with us, the heaven without rent or seam. Do but observe the mode of our illumination. I do not at once arrive at satisfactions as when being thirsty I drink water, or go to the fire when cold. No. But I am at first apprised of my vicinity to a new and excellent region of life. By persisting to read or think, this region gives further sign of itself, as it were in flashes of light, in sudden discoveries of its profound beauty and repose. Now, we don't usually speak like this today, do we? No, we don't. But even in Emerson's time, that was very poetic. And he was a very deep-thinking human being, right? But essentially, I'm going to sum that up. He's saying that there are lots of things that are going to happen in all at the same time within us. And our work is to trust that those things will come about and we will have an experience of wholeness, if you will. And that wholeness will be... Okay, I'm going to leave that alone, sorry. That wholeness will be not something we experience like, okay, I'm going to go here and I have it. But more like there just come a point where everything kind of coalesces and something happens. But along the way, we will have these little hints or these little flashes of light or wisdom or insights that keep us moving towards that goal, if you will. And it's important for you and I to continue our pursuit of truth, even though we may be going through stuff. So at some level, our faith is being built and developed to where it becomes a living faith as we go through this stuff. And then when you and I open our hearts to truth, what we get to do in our own thing is recognize this coetaneous combustion that will occur. And usually that requires some type of ignition, right? Something that ignites all of these parts to come together and coalesce. When that happens, you and I get a glimpse of the larger truth of being, all right? With a capital T, truth. And so many times we just get a real big dose of reality. Okay, that's what usually occurs. And it's an eye-opening experience for most of us. Many of you may be familiar with a computer game called Bejeweled 3. Okay, some of us are, some of us aren't. There's a phenomenon on this game where the combination of certain elements cause this row of characters, if you will, some of them are gems, to explode. And this sets off a chain reaction that makes other gems explode. There's also a coetaneous combustion that's achieved when you make what is called a hypercube. And that is that this hypercube, whenever there's this symbol within it, the gem touches something else, the symbol, and whatever color it is, it will cause anything that color of that symbol to explode. A coetaneous combustion, all right? If only it was so easy to get all the things within us that don't support our Christ nature to just explode and just be gone and over with, right? Oh well. Getting rid of false and limiting beliefs, not that easy. But you and I can do it because essentially it's part of our very nature to seek and to know, all right? There's a character in the Bible who did some wrestling. And then when you and I are trying to come to terms with beliefs that are limiting, or even beliefs that really truly aren't part of truth, but things we may have told, or stories we may have told ourselves about why something needs to be done a certain way, or different things like that. So this name of this character is Jacob. And as we are able to understand, all of these characters represent aspects of our own nature sometimes. And so Jacob, you gotta love or hate, because Jacob he's a scoundrel. He's what we in our day would call a con artist. Okay? Jacob is a con artist. And he cheated his brother, and he conned his father, and he swindled his father-in-law, all right? And he was on the run from his uncle Laban, all right? And had to find himself back in his brother Esau, who he had cheated of his birthright, back in his territory. And he's on the run again. So Jacob is in the 32nd chapter of Genesis, and then we're going to read from verses 24 to 28. All right. Jacob was left alone. A man wrestled with him until daybreak. And when the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And then the man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed." All right. So Jacob finds himself at Jabbok Ford. And Jabbok literally means emptying out, or essentially emptying and letting go of stuff, okay? Just completely clearing out things. So Jacob is in that space, essentially, where he's emptying himself. He's looked at his life. He's looked back at himself, and he's coming to terms. He's done essentially a fourth step. I mean, he's looking and going, you know what, I'm taking an inventory here. I don't really like what I'm seeing, right? And he recognizes that he is about to meet his fate So there's a showdown at Jabbok Ford coming down. All right? This was a watershed moment in Jacob's life. All right? A watershed is a turning point in which, like maybe when you got your braces off, that might have been a turning point, or if you got divorced, or if someone you loved and cared deeply about died. That could be a watershed moment, something critical going on for us in our lives. And it changes who we are. So he thinks he's about to meet his fate. So here he is. He's going to have a showdown with his brother, right? He's sent his brother a whole bunch of gifts, camels and all the goats and helpers and all the things, money, just trying to say, okay, I'm sorry, I repent for having done you wrong. And then he sends his wife and children across, this ford, and he himself comes across, and goes apart. He's recognizing, okay, now it's time to pray. That's kind of how we do that sometimes. We get into the middle of stuff before we look around and go, oops, time to pray, right? All right. Jacob's life was one of subterfuge. His issue really wasn't about his brother Esau. It was his stealing and his lying and conning people all his life. That was the issue that he had to deal with. Jacob represents those subterfuges in our lives when we're not really honest with ourselves, or maybe even other people. So Jacob is important because he chose to wrestle with his issues, to heal. He wanted to be a righteous man, if you will. He wanted to have a clean heart. Jacob was looking to get rid of that part of his character that had held him back for so long. And so anyway, here he is. He's on the run. He's crossed over, and this divine being has put his hip out of joint. Now, I don't know how much you know about anatomy, but the sciatic nerve runs through that area, and if you were ever pregnant and had a baby sit on it or pinched it, you know what pain really is. So it can immobilize you, right? Well, here is Jacob. He is literally pouring himself out before God. I mean, that's essentially what he's doing. He's pouring out all of the reality of his actions, his behaviors. And he's looking at it, and he's going, okay, this is not good. I'm not going to do this. I'm never going to do this again. I'm not living this way ever again. He's wrestling. How many of you ever seen a wrestling match? Yeah, okay. And so a wrestling match, everybody's groping and that's kind of how that feeling is going on inside of himself. He's got all these issues and he's got all this stuff, and it's like he's trying to get a hold of it. And finally, this becomes something that leaves him a changed man with his hip out of socket, okay? Spirit doesn't always answer our prayers the way we want. Jacob's was answered with a wrestling match. Sometimes an encounter with God, when we're really meaning business, don't be surprised if God means business too. Okay? How do you think you would have reacted if your hip were put out of joint? Would you be immobilized by the pain or the whatever? Right. Well, this is the kind of pain he was in. He faced the pain and or being immobilized by it. Many of us are. And so this man, who was a divine being, was spirit, he's dressed in earthly garb and looks like a human being, essentially. Many times the things that come to our lives that are divinely inspired can look like a person. They're dressed like a person, right? Or We may not recognize them, and it's something within ourselves that we really have to dive in and really go within and dig in to get the blessing out of what happened, whatever it is. So he did. He didn't look past it. He wrestled with it, and he found his blessing. Now, metaphysically, Charles Fillmore said this place at Jabbok, at every forward move in his evolution, a person gives up their present ideas that they may receive greater ones. And that's what this event evokes for Jacob, is he's letting go of ideas that he's held for a long time, maybe since birth. And he's opening himself to truth. He's opening himself to a different mindset and establishing an openness, a receptivity to new beliefs. It's not an easy thing, all right? So in this morning, I would like to recognize that Jacob was seeking a blessing. He wanted a clean heart. He wanted to be a different person and to live his life. And that was his blessing, and he received it. Your challenge, and your challenge, and your challenge, my challenge, and your challenge. Are you and I as hungry for that blessing as Jacob was? Are you as hungry to find your own wholeness, to experience that presence so profoundly that you will not let go until you get it? I hope you will. I hope that you can experience enough of that coetaneous combustion that just opens you up to all kinds of wonderful new experiences. You may have to wrestle with it, but it's waiting to happen. I promise you. Let the fireworks begin. Thank you for being with us. God bless you.